she was known as Rose Norwell, a beautiful and charismatic lead singer of the R&B chart-topping 70s group Royce. The group had a string of hits in the 70s. Most notable was Car Wash, from the motion picture Car Wash. But there were many more: Wishing on a Star, I'm Going Down, Love Don't Live Here Anymore, and Oh Boy. Over the years, there have been many popular artists recording covers of I'm Going Down and Wishing on a Star, from Mary J. Blige to Beyonce, and she even did a feature with Jay-Z. But little is known about the life of Rose Norwell before the fortune and fame. Where did she come from? How did she get her start singing? In this video, I intend to shed light on the backstory of Gwynetta Dickey, the original lead singer of Royce. Rose Norwell was born Gwynetta Dickey on December 1st, 1953, in the small coastal town of Biloxi, Mississippi, one of 3 daughters of the Reverend A.A. Dickey and his wife, Mary Louise. Just like many great singers over the years, Gwen got her start singing in the church. She was a member of the choir at Tabernacle Baptist Church, where her father was the lead minister. Being a PK, Gwen lived up to the hype, often at odds with her mother, crazy about cute guys, and able to get her way with her father. Gwen never had aspirations of becoming a famous singer. According to her, she was not really a fan of singing.
I've never been a fan of music.
Whether you call it faith or luck, music would soon change Gwen's life. Gwen was clowning around in class, and this day, the teacher was fed up. She was kicked out and forced to join the school choir. The choir director happened to be Gwen's neighbor, Mr. McDaniel, who lived across the street from the family on Division Street. Gwen fought back, but she had no choice. She was now a part of the high school choir. During rehearsal for an upcoming school assembly, Mr. McDaniels announced Gwen and another student would sing the lead vocals. Gwen rebelled, telling the teacher that she wouldn't do it. He gave her an ultimatum: either sing the song or risk failing his class and being held back while her friends moved on to the next grade. But during that assembly, Gwen realized she had something special.
We did the assembly, and when it came to my time to sing, when I finished singing, the whole auditorium stood up and applauded. Principals, teachers, everybody. And I'm looking around, I'm like, what are they doing that for? And everybody was all over me after the day, goes, oh my God, you were amazing. And I was like, really? And that was kind of like the beginning for me to know that people thought I had a good voice. As I said, I was never really a fan of singing. I was more interested in the cute guy than singing.
Roughly 2 weeks before graduation, Gwen was in a heated argument with her mother at their home. And that's when Gwen shared with her mother after graduating, she was leaving home to live with her older sister, Carolyn, in Florida. Her mother replied, "You can leave now." But Gwen waited. After graduating, her parents put her on a flight to Miami. Gwen didn't know it, but her life was about to change in a significant way. Her goal was to attend the University of Miami, become an airline stewardess, and travel the world. Fortunately for her fans, Gwen's plan for becoming an airline stewardess didn't come true, but she did attend the University of Miami. And about 6 weeks into her studies, Gwen was in the student union, and a song from the Beatles began playing. Gwen started singing the song, just minding her business. Then, out of nowhere, a young woman approached her and said, "You have an amazing voice." Gwen asked, "Who are you?" The woman replied, "Oh, I'm Betty Wright." For those of you who don't know, Betty Wright is a Grammy Award-winning legendary R&B singer. Her songs, The Clean Up Woman and Tonight is the Night, are R&B classics. Betty Wright knew a thing or two about amazing voices. She began singing in the music industry at the tender age of 2 in her family's gospel group, and she signed a recording contract at the age of 11 for a solo career. And she provided backup vocals for everyone from Bob Marley to Gloria Estefan.
So she said, "I want to take you and introduce you to my producer." She said, "I stood here and listened to you sing that whole song." She goes, "You have got an amazing voice." I'm like, "Girl, I can't sing. I don't want to meet no producers."
As time passed, Betty wore Gwen down, and she gave in. She decided to meet with Betty's producer. That meeting would lead to Gwen joining the group Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The other 2 female singers were named Friday and Saturday, and Gwen was now Sunday. The group performed throughout South Florida, even opening for the legendary James Brown. But for Gwen, it was just all fun and games. She still had no aspirations of a life in the music industry. Her goal was to become an airline stewardess. As time passed, Gwen joined another group named Jewel. While singing in a nightclub in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, she was approached by Joe Harris, the lead singer of the Undisputed Truth. He tells her, "I want to introduce you to my producer. His name is Norman Whitfield. We're going to fly you to LA." Even with all the confirmation from professionals like Betty Wright and Joe Harris, Gwen was not convinced that she had a great voice. But she accepted the invitation to meet with Norman Whitfield in Beverly Hills, California, where she joined the band Royce, and she never looked back. After a string of hits with the band, Gwen left to launch her own career as a solo artist. She eventually moved to the UK, where she continues to tour and live to this day. My 3 takeaways from Gwen's story are: number 1, don't settle for less than your best. Her goal was to travel around the world for free as an airline stewardess. She achieved the goal of traveling around the world, but it was her God-given talents that made it possible. Number 2, don't run away from your purpose. She was reluctant to become a singer, fighting against her God-given talents. But when she agreed to meet with Betty Wright's producer, her life changed for the better. And number 3, enjoy the journey. Don't focus on the outcome. Doing all the performing around South Florida and opening for the legendary James Brown, Gwen still did not believe that she had a great voice, and she had no dreams and aspirations of becoming a famous singer. She just was having fun. There you have it, the untold story of the golden voice of Rolls Royce, Miss Gwenetta, aka Gwen Dickey, a true SIP legend. If you have any SIP legends that you would want me to make a video about, leave it in the comments. Until next time, my name is G. Lewis. Peace. This right here, the driveway when Medgar came home, and he was assassinated right here. What it do, YouTube? This your man G. Lewis back again. Welcome to the SIP. Today, as I said, we're at the home of Medgar Evers, and I'm about to get a tour.
Hi, my name is Nin Horde. I live in Jackson, Mississippi, specifically in Byram, and this is the Medgar Evers Home National Monument. Welcome to you, our visitor, and welcome to the audience of our visitors channel. It is a space that Medgar and Merle shared since they did spend some time in Chicago. During their time in Chicago, they got to really know each other a lot more and fall more in love. Also doing summer jobs for for all parents, agricultural and mechanical school at that time as well. During their time in Chicago, Medgar Evers told Miss Marley that you will have my 4 children and that we will be married, even before he even said I love you to her. Coming to this home, to this space, Miss Merle, with her 3 children, bringing her husband here, them forming this connection with their community, that dream was finally coming true for them. Rena is their only daughter. She is the middle child out of the 3. She is now the director of the Medgar Merle Evers Institute. She also went to school, studied fashion. She has a bunch of other accomplishments in her own right. Medgar Merle both moved into this neighborhood. It was being freshly built. And so this entire block was built by 2 African-American gentlemen who used their VA loans to help fund this community for Black middle-class America. And so you had teachers, lawyers, doctors, businessmen, all looking throughout here. Even Margaret Walker Alexander, the activist and poet herself, was one of the first women to buy a home on this street. And so just due to how fresh the community was being built up, especially the homes, Medgar got a lot to say in how this community was built, just due to safety precautions put in place for his family, but also for his community and other leaders who would be coming through these doors. And so, as you saw, that there is only a side door and a back door. And so that was so they could have more view and better visibility of the street, as well as the angles of the street. On the roof, once you go outside, you'll be able to see that there are rocks on the roof. and that was to help offset the balance and footing of anyone who were to, if there was an intruder on the roof, they would hear that. If you walked on marbles or rocks as a kid, like I did, you get off balance and you fall. So that was what the rocks would help do. You see the kids' beds are on the floor. So Medgar Evers, he was a veteran. He taught his kids how to belly crawl to the tub. The tub is cast iron, so it provides that shield of protection for the kids. And so the beds were put on the floor to give them easier access to roll off of and go to that tub. So if any danger were to occur, they would roll off their beds and crawl to the tub to their bed and safe space.
Well, let me ask you this. Was this prior to him becoming active in the NAACP, or that he had this forward thinking when he built his home here, or was this after he had become active in the NAACP?
He's always, they were always talking about safety. And so when they moved here, he moved here because he got the job as field secretary for NAACP.
Okay.
And so he lived in Mount Bayou before then. But during his time in Mount Bayou, he got to work with Dr. T.R. Howard, who is a businessman, entrepreneur, activist in his own right. And he worked on the Regional Council of Negro Leadership, helped start that, as well as volunteering with the NAACP. So he has always been involved and active in civil rights. Most likely, the safety was probably at a more alert, just due to him being the first field secretary here in Jackson, and his name being put on, being brought out nationally, just due to him trying to go into Ole Miss and desegregate that. And so that kind of helped put him on the map nationally with the world and with the NAACP. And so that's probably like heightened up his safety, but most likely he and Merle were always thinking of safety just due to them being Black and being in Mississippi in the South. And so this is the bathroom. The bathroom's about 100% original to the find. Daryl, their oldest son, did pass away in 2004 due to colon cancer, and he was able to see justice being made on behalf of his father due to Miss Murley's pursuit before passing away. He is a businessman and as well as a photographer, and in his own right. You can find a lot of his work online as well. James, he's still alive. He does live outside of the Los Angeles area as a commercial photographer. So a lot of editorial work, portrait, working on TV shows as well. For him and Daryl, there was always that talk about how they weren't the next Medgar or the next Dr. King, but their father fought for them to have that freedom of choosing, of choice. And so they wanted to be just like their father, be that known worldwide, or if they just wanted to simply own land and start a family and have a simple life. And so that is what they did. All the children do honor their father and their mother, trauma from their father and accomplishments from both of their parents throughout their personal lives as well. So Medgar even loved photography himself, but it was more of a hobby for him. And so that kind of helped James to find the connection to his father as well.
Beautiful.
So this is the primary bedroom, Medgar Murley's bedroom. So this is where Miss Murley and her, 3 children, as far as you're counting the child that was still in her belly, were that night of the assassination. And so Medgar Evers, he was coming home from the NAACP meeting. Usually he gets out on the passenger side, and so that's another safety measure that was put in place. And so that area where the garden is, were you able to see that?
No, I didn't see the garden.
Well, there is a garden area up there. It's like a park area as well.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes,
yeah,
so
okay.
That entire side of homes weren't built until about the 70s. So Murley and Medgar both agree that if any danger were to occur, it will come from that area, just due to at that time it was all vacant, and so it was just trees and vacant lots. And so, especially at night, it was pretty dark. And so they agreed that if anything were to come, it would come from that area, and they would get out on the passenger side just to have that quicker access to that side door, but also the car acts as a shield as well.
Wow.
And so Miss Murley, they had 2 cars at the time. Miss Murley's car than Medgar's car. So he would park behind her. And so that kind of gives him that protection going in this hunting. That night, he did get out on the driver's side just due to the exhaustion of working so much, as well as he had t-shirts in the back of his trunk that he had to get out. And so that was quicker access to those t-shirts as well. And so the assassin, using a 30-06 hunting rifle, which is used to hunt elk and deer, also used as that one-shot kill, so you don't have so many punch wounds in the meat. Using that, he also had a scope on there. The assassin was also a veteran himself, specialized in marksmanship. And so finally got his opportunity. Medgar getting the shirts out of his trunk. He was shot in the back, coming through the living room, through the kitchen, off of the fridge, onto a counter. So Miss Murley does hear the gunshot. She does go outside to see her husband trying to get to his family, knowing that it could be his last time seeing them. The children are caught to belly crawl, so that's what they do, grabbing their 3-year-old brother James at the time and going to the tub, but they do hear their mother's screams, and so eventually the entire family is outside surrounded by husband and their father. So one of the things that Rena talked about is just how much she remembers asking her father to get up. Because especially during that time, roles were very important for men and women, and men were the protector. They were that defense. They were that shield. And so what else could you do? And to ask this person who was sad not only for your family, but for his community or his world. He wasn't doing this just for me. He was doing this for everybody. And so a man like that, he's like Superman. So what more could you do than to just ask him to get up? And so the beautiful thing about that night is just how close this community became and how they do come together to help Miss Murley and her children. And so even Medgar putting him on the star's bed, putting him in the back of the truck. Mr. Wells, the neighbor next door, they used his truck to bring him to UNC Hospital, but he was denied treatment and treatment when they got there. But they did have a famous heart surgeon, and there was a famous heart transplant being done, and eventually they decided that they didn't want to look bad just due to how big Medgar Evers is with his community, not a civil rights leader, and so eventually they let him in. But he did die within that hour. And so there's always that talk of maybe he could have lived for 5 more hours, or he could have just lived entirely. We don't know, but the story does not end there. The story does not end with him being assassinated. The story definitely continues. It continues with Miss Murley picking up after Medgar Evers. Miss Murley was born in Vicksburg, Mississippi, under her grandmother, her aunt. And so her grandmother, her aunt being teachers, they really just wanted her to survive and get through life. Create a life for yourself. Don't worry about being a civil rights leader. Don't worry about trying to throw yourself into that environment, just due to how dangerous it was, and just due to them being teachers and being active and being a civil rights leader. You could definitely lose your life, your land, your job. And so for them, they just really taught her to, just kind of survive, be aware of your surroundings, but get by and go on and education and play music and go to Carnegie Hall, which eventually she did in 2021. And so she always grew up with that idea. And so she didn't grow up really with that idea of the fighting for rights as Medgar Evers did. And so he was born in Decatur, Mississippi, with his father and his mother. And his mother was very much like Miss Murley's fraternal grandmother, her aunt. She was a holy goer. She was very community oriented, and she didn't really want her boys seen in civil rights either. And so, although she wanted them to be aware and to know their surroundings, was tell the truth of where you are and who you are and how the world sees you. But I want y'all to survive. I want y'all to stay alive. And so their father, he was a landowner. He owned his own farm. He even rented homes on his land. He worked at the sawmill. He was a businessman himself. And so he also had a lot of respect around Decatur, just due to the fact that he did not step aside to Jim Crow law. He stood his ground. He was a human being. He knew himself, and he knew what he was capable of, what he was owed as a human being, and he made sure he fought for that. And so although Medgar Evers had a lot of leaders and a lot of people he looked up to, his father was his main influence for going down that path, because his father always stood up for himself and for his family as a black man, as a black family in Mississippi. And so Medgar Evers when Medgar Evers and Charles Evers went with their father one day to pay a fee and sawmill commissionary, and so they had to pay off something that they had bought or something, and so their father goes in to pay, and the manager is a white man. He basically is telling them telling the father that he owes more than what he had trying to pay. And of course, their father is like, no, like I know my money, I know what I owe you, and this is what I owe you. So there's a polite back and forth, and eventually the manager pulls out a pistol, and so Medgar Evers' father grabs a Coca-Cola bottle, breaks it, and just is like, if you cross this, it's over for you. And so at that point, he's able to pay the money that he's owed, and there's nothing more, nothing less. And so even having his two boys there doing the same thing that they see their father is doing, standing up for themselves. And so there's always that strength that came from them, from your father. And so the story even was used with you as a visitor and the audience hearing the story, so you guys are able to hear the story and hear the truth and go on and share it as well. And so I will conclude there with my tour. Thank you, visitor, for visiting us and coming. Thank you, audience, as well. I hope it was all enjoyed, and I'll let you finish exploring the rest of the home.
There you have it, the last home of Medgar Evers with his family. The ranger inside shared she did a great, job of telling the story of Medgar Evers and his family, and his military sensibility to protect his family at all times by making sure that the kids' mattresses were placed on the floor and teaching them the importance of dropping down, crawling to the bathroom if there was a situation going on in the home. I find it quite remarkable, man. This is an area that needs to be shared with all people in Mississippi. I don't care what national, creed, or color you are. If you're from the SIP, Medgar Evers' story is a story that you need to know. So if you're a parent, grandparent, and you got kids, you need to bring them here to this monument here and share with them the story about Medgar Evers, man. Because if we don't do it, schools aren't going to teach our kids this information. So this your man G. Lewis signing out. Till the next video, y'all stay blessed. There is no disputing the fact Michael Vick left a significant impact on NFL football. However, a decade before Vick's rise, there was another trailblazer who revolutionized the quarterback position in college sports, leaving a lasting mark in NCAA history. This incredible individual achieved an NCAA record that remains unbroken to this day. He led his team to victory against the mighty Alabama Crimson Tide, breaking their 57-game winning streak and handing them their very first defeat on their home soil since 1963. The story I'm about to share is centered around a true legend from the SIP, who paved the way for the dual-threat quarterback. Being a black quarterback leading a predominantly white high school in the Deep South during the late 70s was rare. Even more remarkable was his journey as a black quarterback leading a major college team in Mississippi. Reggie Collier's achievements make him exceptional on so many levels. Those who know, know. As a fellow Sipian, I feel compelled to pass down this inspiring story to the younger generations who might not be aware that the modern-day quarterback position in the NFL traces its roots back to Reggie Collier's groundbreaking performances at one of Mississippi's prominent PWIs, the University of Southern Mississippi. His jersey number is one of only 3 that have been retired, and he rightfully holds a place in Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. Reggie Collier's legacy is one that deserves to be remembered and celebrated. Reggie Collier was the first collegiate quarterback to achieve the extraordinary feat throwing and passing for over 1,000 yards in a single season. His precise throws and strategic decision-making on the field set new standards for excellence in the game. Before Reggie Collier, the quarterback position was all about being a traditional pocket passer. The idea of a quarterback running and creating plays with his legs was almost unheard of. Reggie's ability to not only throw with precision, but to also take off and make dynamic runs downfield revolutionized the game. He was a game changer. Reggie's style of play set him apart from his peers, and his successes on the field began to shift the narrative surrounding the quarterback position. Reggie Collier was the prototype for what now is known as the modern-day quarterback. This is the captivating story of Reggie Collier, a pioneer of the dual-threat quarterbacks. Reggie C. Collier was born on May 14, 1961 in the coastal town of Biloxi, Mississippi. He spent most of his childhood living with his grandparents, Bishop Nance and Octavia Nance, on the east side of Biloxi on Fayard Street. Bishop Nance was a no-nonsense Pentecostal minister. He was very strict with Reggie and his younger brother Tommy. The Collier boys were forbidden from participating in any after-school activities, but it didn't stop them from trying. Every time the boys would sign up to play football, basketball, or any other sport, Bishop Nance would find out and make them quit. Reggie was becoming frustrated with the restrictions placed on him by the bishop. He asked his mother if he could play sports, so his mother reached out to his father and asked could the boys come stay with him. He said yes. Reggie made the move to D'Iberville in the 10th grade. He didn't have much interest in playing football. Reggie played basketball for the D'Iberville Warriors, but during the spring he signed up for football, but things didn't go well. Collier broke his collarbone, and after injuring his collarbone, Reggie was done with football forever. But quitting what he started was not going to fly with his dad. According to Reggie, my dad had this principle: if you start something, you finished it. So Reggie stayed the course. The following year, Reggie was back on the gridiron. 4 games into the season, and once again, he breaks his collarbone. But this time, it was the other one. Talk about adversity. Again, Reggie pondered the idea of hanging up his cleats for good. Word got back to his coach, and Coach Singleton called him into his office and asked if he was quitting the team. Reggie said no. Things began to fall in place for Collier during his senior year at D'Iberville. The Warriors went undefeated. Reggie said that he was at the right place at the right time, surrounded by great teammates and a coach that believed in him. Think about it. Reggie Collier never played organized sports until the 10th grade. He was green, and for Coach Singleton to decide to play him as the starting quarterback was crazy or courageous, depending on your perspective. I doubt there were many high schools in Mississippi with a starting black quarterback in the late 70s. Reggie said to this day he has tremendous respect for Coach Singleton. Collier finished his high school year with an undefeated year. Not bad for a guy who only played 14 games his entire life. That memorable year at D'Iberville didn't spark much interest from major colleges, but there were a few: Tulane, Jackson State, Alcorn, Southern Miss, and Delta State. The decision came down to Delta State and Southern Miss. Reggie was interested in both programs for different reasons. Delta State wanted him to play football and basketball. Reggie's first choice when he began playing sports was basketball. USM's appeal was the opportunity to play, if not his first year, maybe his second year. Collier was conflicted. He wanted to play basketball, but however, he believed that USM would give him a fair opportunity to play football at the quarterback position. Reggie talked it over with Coach Singleton, and he explained to the coach his desire to play basketball at Delta State and the opportunity with Southern Miss. Reggie said Coach Singleton asked him, "How many 6'4" centers do you see playing college basketball?" Reggie's response, "Not many. 6'4" quarterback? You'd be perfect for that. You're going to feel into your body." Reggie thought about it, and he decided to go with Southern Miss. The first game of the season was against Florida State. Reggie recalled it was the first time he'd seen a massive crowd so loud and players so big and fast, hitting with a destructive force comparable to a car crash. He didn't get a chance to play that game, and he understood he wasn't ready, and he credits the coaches for keeping him on the sideline. This was the time for him to learn the system and to get acclimated to big-time college football. During most of the first year, Collier was learning what it takes to be a starting quarterback at the collegiate level. He did get limited time on the field. On the last game of the year against Arkansas, Reggie was given an opportunity to hit the field earlier than previous times. It was the first time he was called upon to contribute in a big way. The game was either teams to win, and the Southern Miss pulled it off. Reggie said of that game, "It wasn't my best. I made mistakes, but to be out there on the field, playing in a game that mattered was great motivation. From that day forward, I was on the field, and I was determined not to do anything for them to pull me off."
In the heart of the Mississippi Delta, Arthur Big Boy Crudup strummed the blues, unknowingly laying the groundwork for rock and roll. Though his songs fueled the rise of legends like Elvis Presley, Crudup's life told a different story, one of creativity, exploitation, and resilience. This is the untold journey of a man whose music shaped a movement, yet left him picking crops in obscurity. Arthur Big Boy Crudup, the Mississippi bluesman whose song That's All Right helped ignite the rock and roll revolution, spent his later years far from the fame his music created. Exploited by the industry, His story reflects the struggles of many black artists whose groundbreaking contributions were overshadowed by hardship. Arthur Big Boy Crudup passed away March 28, 1974, leaving behind one of the starkest accounts of artist exploitation in the 20th century. Why did Crudup make so little from the song that shaped rock and roll? The answer lies in a common practice of the time. Crudup didn't own the rights to his own music. His original manager, Lester Melrose, did. In his book, Mr. Jelly Roll, Alan Lomax quotes Melrose stating, "I wouldn't record anybody unless he signed all his rights in those tunes over to me." This was the reality for many black musicians of Crudup's era. Presley first played the song during a break at a recording studio audition, and it launched his career. In 1956, Presley paid tribute to Crudup, saying, "Down in Tupelo, Mississippi, I used to hear Arthur Crudup bang his box the way I do now. And I said if I ever got to the place I could feel what old Arthur felt, I'd be a music man like nobody ever saw." Crudup liked Presley's version of "That's All Right." He was quoted as saying, "He made it into a kind of hillbilly record. But I liked it. I thought it would be a hit. Some people like the blues, some don't. But the way he did it, everyone liked it." At the time, "That's All Right" was considered something brand new, a fusion of blues and country, making it the first song recognized as rock and roll. By 1971, it is estimated that Crudup should have earned $250,000, equivalent to $2 million today, from songs like "That's All Right" and "My Baby Left Me," covered by Creedence Clearwater Revival. As for Crudup's life after music, in his early 50s, he left the industry, heartbroken, and settled in Franktown, Virginia, on the state's eastern shore. There, he led crews of migrant workers, picking fruits and vegetables to support his family. His granddaughter, Purcell Crudup Shannon, recalls that despite the pain caused by his experience in the music business, her grandfather never let it break his spirit. She said, "He was an extremely principled man who embodied those old country values, working hard and supporting one's family." Crudup eventually returned to music during the 1960s blues revival. He released new albums, played festivals, and shared stages with legends like B.B. King, Taj Mahal, and Bonnie Raitt. But the royalties that had eluded him during his life remained just out of reach. Near the end of his life, a settlement with the company that acquired the rights to his songs was almost reached, but it fell through at the last minute. Crudup's response? "Naked I come into this world and naked I shall leave it," as he told his final manager, Dick Waterman, who later recounted the story in his book, Between Midnight and Day. After he died in 1974, Crudup's family did eventually receive some royalties, thanks to the music publisher that took over the rights to his songs. In the years since, flashes of recognition have emerged. In 2022, Gary Clark Jr. briefly portrayed him in the biopic Elvis. And there you have it, Mr. Arthur Crudup from DeSip, the true father of rock and roll. His family believes his recognition deserves to go even further, and they're right. His granddaughter Purcell said it best. This story isn't unique. It's happened to so many black artists, both back then and even now. Unfortunately, now it's black record executives doing it as well, which shows the work isn't finished. Thank you so much for watching. I'm G. Lewis, and if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for more powerful stories coming your way. Until next time, God bless.
Lord, prepare me.
Growing up in the east side Biloxi, my father raised me and my brothers and my sister, always telling us about a lot of black people was not able to go to the beach.
It's important that you know your history. And that's what happened in the past. We were relegated where they didn't want you to learn how to read. So that means you'll be ignorant and you'll just continue to repeat and do the same thing over and over again. Growing up in Biloxi prior to the Wade-ins, we was confronted with the Jim Crow laws. And so my uncle Nolan Maxwell Sr. and my stepfather Walter James Fleeton kind of prepped me and taught me what I needed to do in order to survive. What it meant to grow up in the Jim Crow era, it meant that if I was walking down the sidewalk and a white person was coming down the sidewalk, then I would have to get off. I couldn't even look in their eyesight. If I did that, they could take me and hang me up and do whatever they wanted to do. Dr. Mason himself decided to go down there on the beach by himself, where he invited some of his church members at First Baptist on the 17th of April. Okay. And he got up in church and all the people said he was going to be going down there on the beach with him. And then, so what happened is the 17 came around at church service. He got up in church service and said, well, we gonna go and I'm gonna meet on the beach at 2:00. And all of them said they was coming down there and they're gonna be there with him. And so at 2:00, Dr. Mason out there on the beach right there by the lighthouse, and nobody else showed up. And police passed by and looks out there and see him out there, and he come and stop and he arrest him. We met with him and we encouraged him to organize and go back down there. Don't just give up. When they said we were going to be going down there at the Nub Bottom protest, I had me a little job. And I went and bought me a brand new Elgin watch. My mind was just elated. I was on a high. I had waited all my life to go down there on that beach. Down there by the small craft harbors where the night graders was and the women that was out there. On the highway 90, Dr. Gilbert Mason was in his vehicle, his Buick, and he was patrolling between the three groups to see how everything was going. The city police and the state police was organizing this all-white male mob to come down to attack us, 19 years old and up. And we got nothing but women and children and just a few men that was down there. And you had no weapons or nothing. Once they organized that mob, then they went and attacked the adult section down in front of the cemetery and beat them off. And people had blood all over them, and they had all kind of tie irons. They had brass knuckles, and we ain't had nothing. That night was terrifying. You can hear people yelling, screaming, and they were coming through that shooting and, still attacking folks. Bud was like, he was an old man, and he would just get out and he'd drink, but he didn't bother anybody, and he just walked the street and stuff. But the word is that evidently he must have been out there walking that night when they came through there attacking and getting folks. They actually grabbed him, supposedly have gone and taken him out to North Biloxi, and they slit his throat. And then they took him and propped him up down in front of Jeff Davis. And that's how they found Bud's trunk. After the Bloody Sunday, that's when Biloxi got their own branch of the NAACP, and Dr. Gilbert Mason became the first president of that. Then the public access laws got passed.
Before James Brown's funky drummer and the funky bass of Parliament Funkadelic, that was this little-known funk band from the Deep South in Jackson, Mississippi that made one of the first major contributions to hip-hop music. The band was named Freedom, and their contributions to hip-hop and R&B continues to this day. Everyone knows that hip-hop started on the tough streets of New York City. So how did this unknown funk band from the SIP make such a major contribution to the music? Well, here is how the story goes. In the mid to late 1970s, Jackson was home to the region's hotbed of funk music. In a crowded field of talented bands, Freedom rose above the rest, with their tight rhythm sections, sonic boom horns, and the charisma of their lead singer, Joe Leslie Short. The original band members met while they were students at Jackson State University. Victor Mason on drums, Caleb Armstrong guitars, and Ray Smith on bass. Mason also enlisted fellow Sonic Boom band members David Thigpen and Robert Black on saxophone, keyboardist Larry Addison, and multi-instrumentalist Adolph Adams. Freedom became Mississippi's hottest band, doing club dates throughout the capital city and other towns like Biloxi. After performing a showcase for both CBS and Motown Records, the band signed a deal with Malaco Records to release their first album, Farther Than Imagination, in 1979. Around this same time, there was a new creative energy beginning to develop into a culture on the tough streets of New York City. They called it hip-hop. Joseph Sadler, professionally known as Grandmaster Flash, is credited as being one of the architects of hip-hop. His DJing skills transformed the DJing into an art form. Today's DJs have him to thank for the scratch pad and the art of scratching. Grandmaster Flash developed a way to isolate parts of a record, the break beats and the stabs. He would take two 12-inch identical records, and then Flash would mix them together, creating a seamless loop by catching the break beat on one turntable and then starting it over on the second turntable to create a continuous loop, thus giving the MCs time to display their rhyme skills to the people in the clubs and on the block. Here is how Freedom ties in. The group's second single, Get Up and Dance, caught fire thanks to Malaco's A&R Dave Clark. At the time, the band had no idea about the impact that Get Up and Dance was having it on this new emerging genre called hip-hop, until a concert in Florida performing on the ticket with them that night was none other than an up-and-coming rapper named Curtis Blow. Blow's manager at that time was Russell Simmons. He came into Freedom's dressing room and asked if it was okay for Curtis Blow to perform over their track. Years later, in an interview at a local paper in Mississippi, Ray Smith, the bass player, recalls the conversation. Quote, Russell explained that our song was the hottest thing in New York City. Smith said, kids were walking around with radios on their shoulders blasting our music in the clubs and on radio in New York City. Remember the kid, Grandmaster Flash? He founded a group called Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The group signed a deal to Sugar Hill Records, and the group renamed Get Up and Dance after the band, Freedom. And Freedom became a hit for Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, reaching number 19 on Billboard's R&B charts. Freedom had respect for Grandmaster Flash. That is, until they realized that none of their members were listed as songwriters on the credits for their record. Ouch! The music industry is a shady industry. I digress. But let's get back to the story. Malaco, they wasn't having that issue. They sued Sugar Hill. That's right, they sued the label to include Armstrong and Smith as co-writers on the record, becoming one of the first cases concerning samples in hip-hop. Freedom now has 3 songs featured on the Netflix series The Get Down, which documents the rise of hip-hop in New York. And according to WhoSampled.com, various parts of Get Up and Dance have been used in over, get this, 63 records, including SWV's Anything, which is featured on the Above the Rim soundtrack. Beck used his horns on a song called Novocaine. And the kazoo part? Well, Armstrong and Smith say they got that idea from watching the SEC game and watching the cheerleaders play the kazoos. It has now become one of the most enduring parts of the song. Get Up and Dance has officially been used by the likes of John Legend, Black Eyed Peas, Jurassic Park, Boogie Down Productions, Wu-Tang Clan, De La Soul. Man, I'm just getting tired calling up the credits. Kool Moe Dee, Dougie Fresh, even Japan's biggest hip-hop groups have used Get Up and Dance for their big records. And the first edition of the arcade game Dance Dance Revolution featured the song. The song has been very popular in Japan for many years, especially after Dance Dance Revolution did their version. And several years ago, it was used in a television commercial for Nissan in Japan. Stuart Madison, Malaco's vice president, states, Get Up and Dance will always be one of Malaco's most popular songs. Freedom released 3 more albums on Malaco, but the band slowly broke up after the tragic killing of Short in 1981, which remains unsolved to this day. It's a mystery, says Victor Mason. There are no suspects. and dead men can't talk. I don't know if someone felt we were rich and they robbed him, or if it was a jealousy thing. The group is back. After a long hiatus, Freedom is back performing weddings and festivals around the capital city. The 8-member band is made up of 5 originals and 3 new recruits. Well, there you have it. A little known fun fact about hip-hop early days and how a little known funk band from the Deep South in Jackson, Mississippi made such a major contribution to the art form of rap music. My name is G, and welcome to The Sip. Until next time, peace.
Welcome to The Sip, where the blues play. Good food and open spaces, we living like kings. Friendly faces, affordable land, and success in our hands. Welcome to The Sip, where the South sings.
26 points, 14 rebounds per game, 106 wins and only 6 losses, 2,981 career points, 1,662 rebounds. Silver medalist in the 1976 Summer Olympic Games. 3-time national champion. The only woman ever officially drafted by the NBA. The first woman inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. This is the story of a true Mississippi black treasure. All hail to the queen, Miss Lucille May Harris, the queen of basketball. Lucille Harris is considered to be one of the pioneers of women's basketball. She led Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi to 3 straight national titles and won a silver medal with the U.S. women's basketball team in the 1976 Summer Olympic Games in Quebec, Canada. Harris was the only woman ever officially drafted by the National Basketball Association. She is the first black woman inducted to the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, as well as the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. She was truly a trailblazer. Lucille Harris was born in Mentor City, Mississippi, a small town located in the Delta region of Mississippi, on February 10, 1955, to Ethel and Willie Harris. The family were sharecroppers, hard work with very few rewards. The largest employer in the Mississippi Deltas at the turn of the 20th century was agriculture, and cotton was key. To make money, landowners would often hire families to farm their land. This type of work is called tenant farming. Tenant farmers would work the land with their own tools and animals, and after the harvest, the farmers and the landowners would share in the profit. Sharecropping is another type of tenant farming. They usually own very little, if any, farming resources. So after the harvest, they paid their debt to the landowners with the crops.
They was messing over the people anyway. Guy go in, he got to go to the man's store and get his groceries and whatever, and he might tell the farmer, well, you broke even this year. You know, don't get no big bonus or nothing like that, you know.
And breaking even was all a lie.
It was a lie.
He picked way above even.
Yeah, you know, it's just, they told the sharecroppers anything, you know.
Most never got out of debt and basically stayed on farming for generations. Lucille and her 10 siblings would pick cotton after school. They were poor, but as Lucille puts it, we went without, but we didn't want for anything. Between poverty and racism, the Mississippi Deltas could be a deadly place for a black man, especially a black man exercising his God-given rights living in the Deep South. Such was the case in Mentor in 1933, 22 years before the birth of Lucille Harris. Richard Roscoe, a black tenant farmer, had been in a physical altercation with a white plantation manager. Both men had sustained injuries. An hour later, Roscoe was abducted, shot dead, and then drugged through the city streets of Mentor, tied to the back of the sheriff's car. This form of domestic terrorism was not uncommon throughout the South. At 6 feet 3 inches, Lucille was bullied by other kids. They would taunt her by saying that she was long and tall, and that's about all. But nothing could be farther from the truth. The Harrises had a basketball goal in their yard. The neighborhood kids would often gather there to play. Lucille loved the game of basketball. She would often stay up late night watching NBA games on the family's television, dreaming of one day being able to play like the pros. Her mother would often catch her and force her to turn off the television and go to bed. Oscar Robertson was her favorite player, and years later, the Big O would escort Lucille to her introductory ceremony and to the Naismith Hall of Fame in 1992. Lucille attended Amanda Elsie High School in Greenwood, Mississippi. With no prior basketball experience, she tried out for the girls' basketball team and made the squad. She worked very hard at developing her game. Defense, offense, pivoting, rebounding. She developed a killer shot. Her confidence began to grow, and so did her game. Lucille recalls the high school game that changed her forever. Quote, I scored 40 points. Their whole team had not scored 40 points. My whole attitude about my height changed. It became an asset. While at Amanda Elsie, Harris won the Most Valuable Player Award 3 consecutive years, 1971 to 1973. Served as team captain and made the state all-star team. She set a school record 46 points in one game and led her school to the state tournament in Jackson, Mississippi. After high school, Lucille wanted to attend Alcorn State University. Alcorn is located 166 miles west of Mentor City, but the university did not have a women's basketball team. So, Lucille settled for Delta State University, located in Cleveland, Mississippi. Lucille was the only black player on the team. She said her and the other girls really didn't interact outside of basketball, but it didn't seem to bother her much because her game was fire. During her freshman year there, she helped the Delta State women's basketball team to a 16-2 record. The following year, Harris led Delta State in a 90-81 victory over Immaculata University in Immaculata, Pennsylvania, to win the national championship in women's basketball NCAA Division III. Harris led the team to a 32 points, 16 rebounds in the 1975-76 season. Delta State and Immaculata met again in the national tournament finals, and Harris led Delta State with 30 points and 18 rebounds in a 69-64 victory over Immaculata. Delta State returned to the national tournament finals in 1977, where she scored 23 points and 16 rebounds and led her team to a victory over Louisiana State University, 68-55, for the third consecutive title. Harris finished her college career with 2,981 points, 1,662 rebounds, and averaging 25.9 points and 14.5 rebounds per game. Harris was also named as the tournament's most valuable player and to the All-American first team during Delta State's 3 consecutive winning seasons. Harris graduated from Delta State University with a bachelor's degree in health, physical education, and recreation in 1977. She also played on the United States women's basketball team, where her team won gold in the 1975 Pan American Games and a silver in the 1976 Summer Olympic Games in Quebec, Canada. Lucille married George E. Stewart February the 4th, 1977. That same year, Harris was chosen in the 7th round of the 1977 NBA draft by the New Orleans Jazz, now known as the Utah Jazz, becoming the only woman ever officially drafted by the NBA, but she declined the offer. She believed it to be a publicity stunt. Lucille did not believe that a woman could compete with a man, and the fact that she was pregnant with her first child may have also played a small part. She was asked years later, did she regret her decision? And with a smile on her face, she replied, absolutely not. Lucille Harris was ahead of her time, no mistake about it. The world of basketball was not ready for such a dominant force in women's sports. I can't help but to think, how did Lucille feel about the inequality in sports as it pertains to opportunities for women in basketball? Thanks to Ben Proudfoot and the executive producers, Steph Curry and Shaquille O'Neal, the world is now getting to know the queen of basketball, Miss Lucille Lucy Harris Stewart. The Queen of Basketball is a short documentary highlighting the life and basketball career of Lucille Lucy May Harris Stewart on March 27, 2022 at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. The Queen of Basketball won the Oscar for Best Documentary Short. In attendance were Lucille Harris' 4 children, sons Eddie and Chris, and twin daughters Crystal and Christina. Unfortunately, the Queen herself, Miss Lucille Lucy May Harris Stewart, did not get to see this beautiful award presented for this documentary of her life. She passed away on January the 18th, 2022 at the age of 66 in a physical rehab center in the small town of Mount Bayou, Mississippi.
We just left Jackson, last night's Jackson Film Festival. We didn't win, but it's okay. It's all good though. It was a great event. The person who won in my category is fully deserving of that. So now we're on our way back to the coast, but we decided to make a detour and head to Prentice, Mississippi.
What it do? It's your man G. Lewis. I'm back with another video. This time, I'm in the small town of Prentiss, Mississippi. We're now at Griffith Cemetery on the side of the interstate. The reason I decided to come out here today is because one of my favorite, most respected players in the NFL is laid to rest out here. Unfortunately, we lost the great Steve McNair some years back. And today, I want to bring you all with me to his final resting spot. Many of you may know the story of Steve McNair and his unfortunate demise, but I've always had respect for McNair. I recall meeting him years ago on the Gulf Coast. At the time, I was an aspiring hip-hop producer, looking for anybody that was going to support my career and wanted to get behind my production company. So I gave him a business card at the time, and he was cordial and polite and took the card. I never forgot that. And I never forgot his heroic run during the Super Bowl and how they came up short of at least tying that game and sending it into overtime. So I wanted to come out here today and pay my respects to my brother, the legendary Steve McNair.